Welcome to Age of the Obsolete, the weekly podcast that examines the intersection of technology, democracy, and the future of work. I'm your host, John Rovito. On Christmas Day of 2015, 24-year-old Matsuri Takahashi threw herself from the top floor of Dentsu, Japan's largest advertising firm. In online posts made before her death, she'd noted that, when you're in the office 20 hours a day, you don't understand what you're living for. Whether I'm working to live or living to work, I don't know anymore. When asked, her parents said that their daughter's supervisor had constantly berated Matsuri for failure to keep up with her workload. A year later, Japan's Labor Standards Inspector's inspection office was more specific, attributing the young woman's suicide to karoshi, the Japanese word for death by overwork. Japan has some of the longest working hours in the world. According to some surveys, nearly a quarter of Japanese companies have employees working more than 80 hours overtime a month, often unpaid. 80 hours is an important number because it's regarded as the threshold. Anything above that, and you have an increased chance of dying. When we hear stories like this, the general tend to attribute them to the cultural divide between the United States and Asia. But lately, that divide has started to narrow. In an article titled 9 to 5 is for Losers, the New York Times reports that an entire cottage industry has sprung up in Silicon Valley as a desired lifestyle. The operative word? Hustle. The prevailing belief? If you want to succeed, you have to be ready to give up everything. According to Stanford economist John Pengavel, working beyond 56 hours a week adds little to productivity. Unfortunately, nobody appears to be listening. Here's an example of just one of the thousands of work until you drop motivational speeches currently flooding the internet.
Do people know you because of your unbelievable work ethic? If you can't answer yes, man, you're not going to get in that top 10%. You got to get at the top. People have to know you, not because, oh, he's a good salesman. Oh, he's a good this. Oh, he's an artist. Oh, he's a good pianist. Oh, he writes a great, story. No, dude, people need to know you for one major thing first. He works. He works. He produces. The guy's there every day. The guy's pushing and shoving. Because the truth is, no matter how good your ideas are, how good your art is, or how good your skill set is, if you're not working, man, if you're not vibrating at a frequency that people say, my God, how does that guy do all that? If you're not vibrating at that rate, tremendous work ethic that's just a muscle now, and it's just a discipline in your life, and it's a normal way that other people think is abnormal. Ryan Seacrest, Tom Cruise, Oprah, Steven Spielberg, Donald Trump, still pumping and working as a billionaire. Look, if you're not working at that level, you're not going to make it. Get your work ethic in, man. It's the American way. Work ethic.
When asked by PricewaterhouseCoopers, 78% of workers surveyed said that they would undergo treatments to improve either their body or mind if it would improve their chances of employment. Already, a growing number of young professionals in Silicon Valley insist that taking small doses of psychedelic drugs makes them perform better at work, enabling them to become more creative and focused. The practice, known as microdosing, involves taking minute quantities of drugs such as LSD, psilocybin, and mescaline every few days. George Burke is a Silicon Valley entrepreneur working in the field of mind and body experimentation. Every morning before he goes to work, he consumes a tiny bit of LSD, about 1/10 of a typical dose.
With microdosing, I don't really feel any effects. I don't know that I've really taken it, other than I notice that my brain seems to be able to solve problems a little bit better than I was before. And I'm feeling a little more connected both to my work on a given day. Let me tell you about the first time that I did LSD microdosing. I had a big task I needed to take care of, putting together a large business contingency plan. It would have been difficult to think about each contingency and incubate it and put it on paper. This was going to be a very large document that I was putting together. After microdosing, what I was able to do, and this just intuitively came to me, was to envision each contingency as branches of a tree. And I could picture each one as a branch, and I could visually climb this tree and reach out to one branch, grab that idea, incubate it, write it down, and then place it back up, and then go to the next branch. And I could do that all throughout the entire tree. And it was a very interesting way to visually solve what would have been a very complicated problem to do otherwise.
In an increasingly competitive world, one in which the competition now includes artificial intelligence and automation, it's tempting to look for a quick fix to help us be more productive. But is this the path we want to travel? Bronnie Ware is an Australian nurse who provides terminally ill patients counseling from the stresses attendant to dying. As part of her work, Bronnie asks her patients about any regrets they have regarding their lives, a second chance. Every male patient has the same response: "I wish I hadn't worked so hard." As breadwinners, their lives had been consumed by making a living and pursuing a career. While all felt that this role was important, what they regretted most was their children and the companionship of their spouse. The prevailing belief was that by simplifying their lifestyle and making better choices, they didn't need all the money they'd been chasing. By spending more time with the people that meant the most to them, they would have been far more happier and far more fulfilled. Entrepreneur Iman Agay, founder of Success Road Academy, relates how a total commitment to work had dire consequences both for his life and for his family.
When I was growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was a very good entrepreneur. But he used to work really, really hard. Although we were living in the same home, there were times that I hadn't seen my dad for 3 months in a row, because he would leave home before we woke up and he would come back home after we went to sleep. But he had a plan. He wanted to retire at age 53 and go enjoy his passion, which was traveling the world with my mom, going to Europe and Africa and Asia and see the wonders of the world. So we were very happy for him. We are like, work hard and retire early and go do whatever you want to do. When my dad turned 50, he was diagnosed with a disease called ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. ALS, in most cases, kills the patient within 3 to 5 years. And when my dad turned 53, he passed away. He never retired. He never enjoyed his life. He died with massive regrets.
Jim is a friend from college, an unreconstructed hippie replete with shoulder-length hair and a flowing red beard. When I ask if he can get me some LSD, he looks at me surprised. I only want 1/10 of a tab, I tell him. A microdose. When Jim answers that I'm not going to get much of a trip from such a small hit, I explain the podcast I'm putting together, that I want to see if microdosing really works. 2 days later, I get up at 8 in the morning, shower, and before sitting at my desk, I take the tiny dose of LSD Jim has given me. And then I wait. At first, nothing happens. After about an hour, I decide that the dose was too small and I begin to work phone calls, my standard routine. That evening, I look back and decide it was a productive day, but I always feel productive when I get a good night's sleep. Later, Jim calls, asking about what he refers to as my mini trip. I tell him I had a great day, but whether or not the microdose had any effect is hard to tell. There's a pause, then Jim suggests I double the dose. For a moment I consider it, then think, and if that has no effect, do I double up again? Work is important for anyone else. In addition to helping to find who I am, it provides me with a sense of purpose as well as fulfillment. But there's more to my life than just work. So much more that I would never make a commitment to a job that required me to sacrifice my friends or family or to take drugs that could put my health in danger. Because when we talk about success, it has to mean more than just the work we do. This is John Revito saying thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions or want additional information on any of the topics covered in these podcasts, please go to our website at ageoftheobsolete.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.